What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as J Monster, and thank you for joining me for another replay battle. This one is actually really cool. We've never had a river battle done on Age Reforged before, and that is exactly what we have today. This is a 1v1 Gondor versus High Elves. This is a brutal slaughter of a river battle, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy it. And as usual, we're going to take a brief look at the army compositions, but before we do that, I want to preface this with saying, Happy birthday, Peacekeeper. Thank you for sending me in this replay. This one is for you. But without any further ado, let's take a look at some of the army comps. The first army here is being commanded by Peacekeeper himself. He's got 1 unit of Northanger Cavalry, 1 unit of Mladr's Cavalry. These guys are very, very swift, heavy Lancer Cavalry. Definitely great for outmaneuvering your enemies. Don't want to get them caught in battle for too long, though. They do tend to suffer. They do have the 2 HP and decent armor values, but they are quite low in numbers. His skirmish line consists of 1 unit of No Eternal Warriors and 2 units of Eldarin Archers. A fan favorite, the Golden Boys of the High Elves. Everybody loves them. He's also got a second line consisting of some Eldarin Swordsmen, and in fact 2 units of them. Behind them, he's got some Eldarin Spears, and finally, last but not least, his reserves consist of 2 units of Mithlond Nobles and 2 units of Light Sword Gwendi. He's also bringing himself a Ballista, which is a very wise decision when you're locked in this sort of river battle, as artillery is going to play a significant role and definitely be worth the value in these very static engagements. Moving on now, we have the army of Gondor being commanded by Metalized. He's got 1 unit of Ithilien Rangers, 1 unit of Gondor Archers. He's also got, I believe, 3 to 4 units of Gondor Spearmen, 1 unit of Haven Guard, 1 unit of Swan Knights. He's also got some Guards of Osgiliath and a couple units of Coastal Wardens. Backing them up, he's got a fairly strong cavalry contingent. He's got 1 unit of the Knights of the Silver Swan. These guys are probably one of the best knights in the game. They have absurdly long lances too. Just look at that. It's like 3 or 4 times the length of their horse. It's amazing. And he's also got 1 unit of the Tirith Air Knights. Unlike many of their Tirith Air counterparts, they do lack a second hit point. However, they have the high armor value that we've come to associate with the Tirith Air contingents. He's also got a Trebuchet hanging out here with his Osgiliath Spearmen, and that's basically it. So let's go ahead and let's jump right into the battle. After dropping his stakes, Metalized is going to immediately fall back from that river crossing position. You don't want to stick around too long when you've got some High Elven archers bearing down on your 6. So he's going to fall back as far as he can, get himself out of range of those very deadly Elven bowmen, and just continue to play a very patient, almost siege-like game. Meanwhile, Peacekeeper is moving up with his High Elven battalions, moving forward, looking to take a strong position on this river crossing and begin to bombard the forces of Metalized. We're going to go ahead and we're going to speed up just a little bit here. You can see the Eldarin Archers now moving forward, getting themselves into loose formation, preparing to skirmish with some of the very elite Gondor forces arrayed against them. There is, of course, that unit of Gondor Archers hanging out in here. I think there's a unit or 2 of Ithilien Rangers waiting, just biding their time, waiting for those Northanger Warriors and those Eldarin Archers to get within range. The Ithilien Archers don't have the armor, I think, to stand up in a straight fight with Eldarin Archers, but they have great range and they can hide anywhere. So they really have the opportunity to pick their engagements. Northanger now arraying themselves on this bank, slightly just out of range of Metalized forces. Just kind of a bit of a staring contest settling in here. These 2 armies just kind of glaring at each other across the river. You can see the Ithilien Rangers now moving forward, looking to get in range. I think they actually outranged the Northanger Warriors, so they were more than capable of taking those guys on from a distance and dealing some pretty significant casualties to them, while being immune essentially to any and all retribution. Another unit of Ithilien Rangers moving up over here. Metalized definitely has the skirmishing forces necessary to batter down the defenses of the High Elves. If he wanted to be very aggressive with his archers and even get some lucky shots with his Trebuchet, he could really force the High Elves' hand, forcing them to either come across to him or to retreat further away from the crossing, allowing him to make that passage in a lot more safety than he otherwise would be able to. The Ithilien Rangers now opening fire on the Northanger Warriors, who just really don't like that engagement. They took some fairly light casualties there, about 5 of them going down, and they're now going to fall back and get out of range of those Ithilien Rangers, those very elite archer units. Oh, look at this, some opening volleys here from that catapult, looking to get a piece of those Gondorians. If they're not careful, they could suffer some really serious casualties. So I think Metalized is going to have to fall back a little bit from this position and just settle in to a skirmish phase. His trebuchet definitely outranges the High Elven catapult, so there's really no reason for him to put himself in danger like this. And if he's not careful, he's gonna find himself in a lot of oh goodness! Just clipping off the end of that poor unit of Gondorian spearmen. A very nice catapult volley on the part of Peacekeeper, just claiming the lives of so many of those brave Gondorians. Really, now is the time, I think, to begin to fall back. His forces can't afford to take losses like those. But you can see exactly what I meant earlier. The catapults and artillery units in general in this kind of static engagement, this is where they excel. This is essentially a siege with no walls. So these catapult units, these artillery units in general, are really going to pay for themselves really quickly. Peacekeeper now moving forward with his catapult, looking to get some more volleys here. Just continue to put the hurt on to Metalized, really wanting to pressure him, I think, into making a mistake into coming in to this choke point. Metalized, though, not going to do it. Instead, he's choosing to open fire with his trebuchet. A little bit inaccurate, though, unfortunately, thanks to that fire ammunition. It's always, if you're trying to snipe artillery, it's usually a better idea to just switch to the normal shot, because it is significantly more accurate. Not quite so satisfying, though, as crushing a catapult with a giant fireball, but still, it'll definitely get you a lot more bang for your buck. Oh, I thought he got lucky and his forces were missed entirely, but unfortunately, the lives of a handful of Gondor archers being claimed by that catapult. The catapult, I think, definitely has a better firing angle on the Gondorians than the trebuchet has on them. This trebuchet is in an elevated position, giving it a nice little ranged advantage, but it tends to soar a little bit too high, I think, given the trebuchet's firing angle. So it's probably going to land either short or really, really long. We're here, though. Metalized being very cheeky. Look at this. Slowly walking his narrator now through these stakes. This is actually something I found that not everybody realizes. Your horses will only impale themselves on these stakes if they run at full speed through it. I think we're going to... Oh, yeah, seen a little bit of it right there as they started to gain some speed. But if you walk through the stakes, you can walk through them unharmed. Oh, that's so sad. Oh, he managed to make it at least. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, that makes me really, really unhappy. Those poor narrator warriors, they got really spread out. Peacekeeper, I think, is looking to wreak a little bit of havoc here in amongst the ranks of the Gondorian skirmishers. It's a brave notion, but I don't think it's really the best. His Norrentino cavalry got a little bit too close, I think, to the coastal wardens. Got raked on the flank with some enfilading fire from those javelin men, and now they're getting charged in the front by the Silver Swan cavalry. There's a little bit of a mistake here. I think that Metalized left those javelin men on a little bit too long, and he probably claimed the lives of a few of his Athelian Rangers that he really didn't need to lose. Oh, another big shot coming in from that catapult, doing so much damage to these static spearmen. There's really nothing that they can do. They don't have an answer to it at this point. There's just so many High Elves engaged, or rather deployed, on the opposite bank to them, that it's going to be a bloody affair either way. But I think his Athelian Rangers are more than up to the task, and they could definitely provide the covering fire needed for the Gondor archers to get themselves into position and just whittle down the low numbers of the elves with massed ranks of volley fire. Well, so we managed to miss some Gondor infantry that were hiding in the woods over here. So Metalized does still have quite a healthy force. A lot of infantry, definitely enough, I think, to wear down some of the High Elves, but he needs to be wary, and he needs to really get his skirmishers going and do as much damage to the High Elves as possible, because right now he's not really able to return any fire, and that's a really big problem. He's just kind of taking another big shot from that catapult, claiming the lives of more of these poor Gondor spearmen who are just suffering so badly. Oh, close that time. Very, very close. Two near misses for the High Elves. Another one that was really wide of his cavalry unit. It looks like Metalized might be... Either he's targeting the catapult and those shots are just going wide and a little bit long, or he's trying to hit those Metalized cavalry, which isn't a bad idea. Definitely want to watch these guys, though, because as I said, they are very swift. If Peacekeeper... Oh no, actually, look at this. He's not able to move over here because of the size of this map, so he has to push across this river valley. And there's only one way for him to do it, which Metalized has very wisely locked down with his cavalry, and so far has worked out for him with his cavalry. With his what do you call these? Stakes? Yes, stakes, that's the word. He's locked it down with his stakes, which has really worked out really nicely for him. You can see a lot of poor High Elves who've just impaled themselves on these things very foolishly by running into them. Peacekeeper now moving forward with his skirmish contingents. I think this might be a little bit of a mistake. He's definitely in a position of strength right now. There's no reason for him to move forward and engage the force of Metalized. Although, oh man, another big shot into those poor Gondorian spearmen. Although I guess it's better them than the Haven Guard or something else a little bit more valuable. The Athelian Rangers and the Gondor Archers now opening fire on the Norei Tyrno, who are in a bad position. They're on the low grounds here, whereas their adversaries are up on the high ground, giving them a much better angle to fire down than it is for the Norei Tyrno to fire up. And they're really starting to pay the price for it. A lot of Norei Tyrno now beginning to drop. Oh, look at this. Just so many of them. They're not going to be able to stand up to that for too much longer. And back here, Metalized still trying to get his Trebuchet to do some work, but I don't think it's managed to hit anything so far, which is really frustrating. Trebuchets and catapults in the current iteration of Reforged are really kind of a mixed bag. Peacekeeper's gotten quite lucky with them, and a lot of that has to do with his great angle. You can see another shot there going into the Athelian Rangers of all things. Oh, it's so sad. But Peacekeeper's gotten really lucky with them, and Metalized hasn't had so much luck. But this is really kind of the name of the game when you want to rely on your artillery. Oh, another big volley going off here. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward this just a little bit. Oh man, right into the Haven Guard. Oh, that's so devastating. A huge number of Haven Guard falling in that volley. Very important, very expensive unit there. There's like 7 or 8 of them. Oh, that's so tragic. That's really hard to watch. High Elves just continuing to open fire. Peacekeeper now trying to force the crossing. You can see him moving forward with some of his Sword Quendi, and it looks like they're being backed up by some more heavier infantry. So the Sword Quendi just skirting around, totally outmaneuvering Metalized's forces here. And this one unit of Sword Quendi now pushing forward, looking to get into those Coastal Wardens who are beginning to open fire. These Sword Quendi really not liking that, taking a lot of damage. They could start to rout here if those guys get another volley off. And they are! Oh, it's just so devastating. Big charge coming in from the rear now from the Swan Knights, and a little bit of friendly fire on the part of the High Elven Catapult, rather, which is going to see those poor Sword Quendi off. They're not having really accomplished very much. Very, very bloody engagement. But down here, they're doing a little bit better. The Gondorian Spearmen still holding the line. Says victory certain for these guys, probably due to the presence of these Mithlon nobles, who are just wreaking havoc amongst these poor, depleted units of Gondor Spearmen. Peacekeeper now moving forward in force. You can see as the Mladris cavalry have forced that crossing. I think maybe 1 or 2 of them might got hooked on those stakes, but largely they are, oh wow, getting charged in the rear right now, but largely they were intact. But after taking that charge from the rear from the Swan Knights, I'm not sure how much longer they're going to stay that way. Oh, brutal. Catapult shot going into those Knights of the Silver Swan. Not how you want to lose them. The Mithlon nobles really holding their own. Oh, devastating catapult volleys. And let's slow down here just a little bit. Peacekeeper now moving in with some of his Mladris cavalry. These guys are very swift, a lot faster than the Tirthair Knights, who they're just leaving in the dust, leaving Peacekeeper free to wreak havoc all over the back of Metalized lines. All these poor Athelian Rangers getting a huge charge off in the rear. They were trying to flee, but it just wasn't fast enough. Metalized trying to respond, moving in with some of his guards of Gilead, hoping to pin them between the hammer and the anvil. But those very swift Mladris cavalrymen are going to be able to scoot away. You can see a gap here in the line that they're going to exploit. Looks like the Bannerman is going to get himself caught on the pikes, but otherwise, the guys are going to get a nice frontal charge into the Haven Guards. Not the best fight for them. I don't think the Mladris cavalry would survive that engagement for too long. Depleted though the Haven Guard are, they are still a formidable fighting force. Really doing a lot of damage to those poor Mladris cavalrymen who have lost now 4 or 5, or yeah, something like 6 of their number. A significant portion now charging into battle against the Gondorian archers, hoping to deal as much damage with this very swift cavalry unit as possible. Metalized just still not able to pin these cavalrymen down. The Gondorian archers getting a huge char in the front, and the Mladris cavalry are going to be able to just kind of skirt away from that. There's really not much of a response that Gondor can mount at this point. Meanwhile, the infantry fight is really beginning to get going in earnest. You can see the Eldarinway Spearmen moving in to engage the Gondorian infantry. Not an easy fight for the Eldarinway Spearmen. They do have the extra HP that will help them hold for a very long time. But these Gondorian infantry, I'm sure, will eventually get the better of them. Oh man, those poor Knights of the Silver Swan getting hit in the rear now by the Eldarinway Swordsmen. What remains of the Tirthair Knights giving up in their pursuit of the Mladris cavalry, charging into battle, looking to get a nice hammer and anvil strike. Actually, no, they chased the Mladris cavalry all the way over here, And they're trying to charge into them, but they got themselves cut off by the Elder Runaway swords. Getting these nimble Noldor swordsmen are just pulling these poor armored cavaliers out of their saddles and really destroying that unit very, very quickly. So Metalize needs to get them out of there as fast as possible. I think he sees the predicament that he's in. He's going to try and flee with what remains of his cavalry regiment. Very, very unfortunate. The Eladrin's cavalry now in hot pursuit, looking to wipe out what remains of the cavalry strength of Gondor. If he manages to do that, then that is going to leave Gondor absolutely defenseless in the face of those Eladrin's cavalry. The Eladrin's cav looking like they're wanting to take down some of these coastal wardens, just trying to wreak as much havoc in the backlines as possible. As you can see, the infantry fight has really started to go against Gondor. These Elder Runaway spearmen, backed up by swordsmen, have managed to break through. Now taking on the dismounted Swan Knights. Nice flank charge here into the Elder Runaway spearmen by the Tirithir Knights, doing a lot of damage to those spears, but they need to get out of there as quickly as possible. Another charge possibly going into the front of these Mithlond nobles. Not really all that effective, though. Not a whole lot behind it, just a couple of cavalrymen. The rest of the unit is just kind of strung out here in these two engagements. Over here, though, it looks like the Swordcoin are actually managing to beat back the Gondorian infantry. Over here, they are putting up a much stronger showing against the spearmen and against some of the Elder Runaway swordsmen, but I think it's only a matter of time before what remains of these Gondor infantry units begin to crumble. It's a hard thing for Metalize at this point. Most of his infantry is now engaged. The High Elves somehow managing to get local superiority despite the losses that they have suffered in terms of infantry. Those poor dismounted Swan Knights. Still, there's 48 of them in the unit and they are already shaken. That tells you that the odds are really stacked against them in this case. Peacekeeper doing a great job at supporting his spearmen battalions with something a little bit sturdier and with a little bit more killing power. Mithlond nobles and Elder Runaway spears, a great 1-2 punch capability. Over in the back here, these Eladrin's cavalry still just doing work. These Gondor archers kind of powerless in the face of these cavalrymen. Back here, there's still a unit of Guards of Osgiliath holding position, but really, there's only so much the Metalize can do at this point. Haven Guard back here, looks like they're trying to chase away some of the Sword Quendi, which they have managed to do very, very well. These Ithilien Rangers still reasonably healthy, 35 in the unit, more than enough, I think, to begin to put a little bit of pressure onto Peacekeeper's archers, who are right down here. The Northern Warriors have really suffered, and so is this unit of Elder Runaway archers, but he still has his healthy unit right here, and if he can get those skirmishers working, he should be able to shut these guys down very, very quickly. Oh, I thought we were going to see a little bit of friendly fire, but luckily for Metalize, we are not. A little bit of light casualties going into these Elder Runaway archers, who are just having a field day, I think. There's no one really left to shut them down. On the flank here, these dismounted Swan Knights, getting charged by what remains of an Elder Runaway swordsman unit. 25 left in the unit, I think now free from that engagement with the Gondorian infantry, who are slowly getting surrounded and now beginning to break. Very, very unfortunate. The elves have definitely broken through here. Metalize now realizing his predicament, admitting defeat, and fleeing off the battlefield, trying to preserve what remains of his army. So a very solid victory there for Peacekeeper. Happy birthday, my friends. I hope you had a wonderful day, and yeah.